Hey up everyone, welcome to the Cannon Hall Farm podcast. With us, the Nicholson brothers, farmers Rob and Dave.
We're two Yorkshire farmers who, along with our dad Roger, brother Rich and the rest of our family, have turned a farm with 2 sheds and a barn into an award-winning tourist attraction.
You've seen us on the telly, live on Facebook, and now we're here with our brand new podcast.
Across this series, we'll be looking at the key moments that got Cannon Hall Farm to the place we're at today.
On today's episode, we're going to be joined by our dad Roger, and we're going to talk about the early days at Cannon Hall Farm.
Coming up,
I think my mum told me when you actually got married, my gran said to my mum, well, you've got him now. Is that right?
I believe so. In other words, look after him.
yeah. So Dave, what has your week been like?
I've been extremely busy on the old JCB, but an interesting job this morning, we sheared the alpacas.
And were your customers satisfied with their haircuts?
Thinking back to when you sheared one on the programme, I think you did a nice, more of a, well, the customer would have been happy with yours. This was just all off.
This was a short back and sides?
It was a really short back and sides, and there was a little bit of spit flying in all directions, but it's one of the hazards of the job.
Well, I think once those alpacas have got the fleece off, and hopefully we get some summer weather, they'll be very happy with the situation.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had the hottest, summer so far, but the alpacas are ready for that sunshine now.
Exactly. Well, you'll be glad to know that I've had a successful mating this morning.
Really?
Yeah, very pleased with it. Aussie horseborn.
Oh.
It's really pleasing to say we're expecting another foal next year, hopefully.
Well, I'm glad you put that into context.
Yeah, so we've mated a miniature donkey,
yeah.
We've mated some cows with a bull, and now a Shetland pony as well. So next year's springtime is looking assured.
Well, you've got to plan a year ahead, don't you? If you want animals at the springtime, especially if we're filming or not, we need to be prepared.
You can only have a successful springtime if you have a successful mating time.
Exactly. I mean, our job's a little bit different. We plan our lambings for when the school holidays are on. So visitors can see all the little lambs being born, and they're memories that you keep forever.
Yeah, I just think that people come to our farm to see baby animals, and to make sure we've got them, you've got to put the time into making sure that the mood music is right for the breeding season. So I suppose that's what I've been up to this week.
And what was Ozzy's mood music?
He didn't need any music. He was a rock star.
He's a force of nature, isn't he? Right, so exciting times this morning. We're going to get joined by Dad, aren't we?
Yeah, looking forward to getting Dad on the couch, find out a little bit more about our history, where it all started, things that happened before we were even born. So yeah, I'm sure he's got loads to tell us, and it's always nice to spend time with him.
I better move up a bit then.
Go on then. Oh, come on, Dad, come and sit here.
Oh, my leg.
For those that don't already know, we're delighted to be joined on the couch by our dad, Farmer Roger, the legend that is.
Dad?
Thank you. Do you want me to reply to that?
No.
Yeah.
Right, Dad,
Yeah.
We're here today to talk about your arrival at Cannon Hall Farm. Cast yourself back to 1958. The farm was bought at auction, which I can only imagine was a very exciting day. What are your memories of that day?
Well, I wish I could cast myself back to that time and do it all again, but I can't do that. So, it was a big day. It was a sale day, and I had to go to school, not thinking a lot about school.
Boo.
Not thinking a lot about school, and looking towards 3:45 when the bell would go, and I'd be dashing down into Barnsley to find out what had happened.
And this is obviously pre-mobile phones. Everyone now is so connected, aren't they? You know exactly what's happening elsewhere in the world, but then, an ordinary telephone was something that wasn't taken for granted.
No, I was completely in the dark about whether we got the farm or not, so I set off at a great pace down from the school into Barnsley
And you were at Barnsley Grammar School.
I was at Barnsley Grammar School, yeah.
So
And
where did you head then, Dad?
Straight down, just past the town hall to where there was a little barber's on the roadside, and that's where I'd organised to meet my father.
Had you actually already been round the farm for a good look round?
Oh, we've been at least half a dozen times,
Right.
at least, yeah.
You'd gone round every field.
We'd had a good look, and every time we went, it was another little magical moment.
So you were keen to get it?
I was particularly keen to get it because it was a big change from where we were at Worsbrodale. I mean, Worsbrodale had been a really happy place for me. I'd had a really happy childhood. But this was something different. The buildings were so much different. It was like an adventure just looking around them.
The word adventure just sprung into my mind then. It must have been a magical thing to experience and to go through.
Well, it was, and so down I ran from school to find out, and my father's face was, non-committal.
Did he have a poker face?
I don't know about that.
Or do you think he was just worried that he'd spent too much money?
Well, nowadays it seems like no money at all, but in those days it was a lot of money. So,
And how much was it?
well, I learned later that he'd sort of set himself a limit of £7,000, and he hadn't had a bid at £7,000. So instead of losing it, he just put £100. That was his first bid, and he actually got it at £7,100.
And what do you think he would have gone to, Dad? Was that the limit, or?
Well, I think he'd gone past his limit, and I'm not sure. He was a little bit of a gambler. He might have gone again, you never know, but he never told me that.
And do you think that I get some of my auction fever from him?
I think you definitely do.
Because if I get to an auction,
Oh, yeah.
I like to come away winning, and my dad's there with his head in his hands, and that's enough
I'm
now.
nearly,
that's
I'm nearly
enough.
to get my arms around him and stop him sometimes.
And I'll come home and I'll say, Dad, I've won again.
You know what? We went to that Swiss Valet sale, Rob.
Yeah.
And he kept on looking at me, and I kept on shaking my hand and said, "Don't buy it."
Kept on
right?
going.
Because it was like, it was a lot of money.
We were
that-
trying to
that
buy
ram.
a champion ram, though, weren't we?
We were, but it came at a cost. And we know that the people that bought it afterwards, they bought it, there was about 5 different farmers, weren't they, bought it together. And we wouldn't have beaten them.
Right.
You know, and if we had, it'd have been an awful lot of money.
But we did make them pay for the privilege.
And
we did.
You don't risk it though to run them up.
Well, in the end, we went to Sweden, didn't we? And we bought a fine ram, and he's done us a really good job.
Yeah.
But I know what he's like. I've seen him bidding,
Yeah.
and he's terrible.
So I've obviously got the genes of my grandfather in terms of auction fever. So take us back then, Dad. You met him at the barber's. Did you have a haircut?
I don't think I was in haircut mode.
Or was it just something for the weekend?
He
Sir?
was not in the no.
How old were you, Dad? How old were you?
I was 15 years old.
Oh, well, you're getting there, aren't you?
Yeah, get in there. So no, I don't remember having a haircut at all. But
So why did you meet at the barber's
Well,
then?
the barber's. My father was a Rotarian,
Oh, was his pal?
and he was his friend. Yes. So and a good friend as well. So that's why it happened.
So when was he the man from Del Monte? Did he say yes?
He said yeah. He said yeah fairly quickly.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't help me in.
And how long then
suspect.
before you shot down to Cannon Farm to have a look round? That day?
No, because it soon be dark.
All right. Yeah, what time of year was it?
Well, it was April.
Right.
It wasn't a time when it was so light, so I'm not sure whether the next day was the day we went, but in the near future I was up at Cannon Hall Farm many times, just looking round, deciding little things what we were going to do and things like that. But after that, you see, they had to have a sale. So
All right. So then you got the chance to buy the
Equipment.
Yes.
the content
yes,
sort of. Right?
yeah, they always give the incoming owner a chance to to buy some of the
At
equipment.
auction or agreed by
Yeah,
private
at auction,
treaty, right?
Yeah.
And had the museum already, the big house, had that already been sold at that point?
It had already been sold about 6 years earlier, I think. Something like that.
So the Barnsley Council were already running it as a public park?
Yes, I don't think they'd done a lot towards it, but it takes them a while to get into motion, sort of.
Yeah.
So,
A few meetings down the line.
yeah.
So we're at a point now where you bought it at auction, very exciting. How did your dad feel about it afterwards? You know, once you got that realisation, you know, did you set to deciding what you were growing in each field? Did you have plans for the dairy herd? You know, what were your next projects?
Well, that's stepping forward a bit quickly, because in the next day, the person who must have been the last bidder had second thoughts about it, and he came in and tried to offer my father a little bit of profit, I think.
How much
It won't be
profit?
much, I don't know, for him to take it over. And my father then, I mean, he wasn't a well man. He'd been advised not to go into business again by the doctor. And so it made him think about it. Had he gone too far? And so there was a little bit of doubt as to whether he might sell it again.
So really then, you got it and then you were in danger of not having it?
Not having it, yeah. But anyway, we talked about it. He made his mind up we were going to make a go of it, and he said no to them.
But as a young man, Dad, you'd work, after school you'd work on the farm, wouldn't you? On a weekend, you'd be working on the farm.
Yeah.
So he knew what kind of man you were going to grow into, if you like. He knew that you could take it on.
I hope so, anyway.
Yeah.
His sole thoughts in that I was going to sort of take over at Worsbrough, but then having lost almost all the land, he must have been looking out for somewhere else.
We're at a point now where you've got the farm bought,
Yeah.
he's had his wobble, he's decided he's going to stick with it.
Yeah.
You're then at the point where you're deciding what animals to keep, what your enterprise is going to look like.
Yeah.
I suppose you've got stock at the farm at Worsbrough to bring across, have you? Or was all that sold?
Not a lot. We hadn't a lot because there was no land really to turn stuff out onto. So, no, we hadn't got much stock. We had a bit of equipment and things like that. But they had to have a sale, and the sale would be organised so that if there was any fixed equipment and stuff like that, we could have a chance to buy some of that. And we sort of bought the grinder for the corn and that, the turnip chopper and things like that. That all, we bought that as we were there.
Was the grinder the same grinder that we knew as kids?
Yeah, just about.
I think it was, yeah. It was
just
quite
about,
old.
Yeah.
It was. You just crushed the barley and then we fed it to the cows, didn't we?
Yeah.
You bought some stuff that was here.
Yeah.
You then had to buy some stock,
Yeah.
and you set about having a milking herd.
Well, that was the idea. My father had bought me a heifer, a Frisian heifer at the sale.
An expensive one.
An expensive one. It was really expensive compared to...
And that was to be the foundation cow of this dairy herd that was going to sweep the world.
well, I don't know about that. But
But in his mind, it would
Yeah.
hope to be a real good cow that would do you well.
Yeah.
What was that cow called and how did it do?
it was called Beaucliffe Gwyneth, and she cost 140 guineas.
That's a lot.
It's a lot when you consider the price of the farm.
Yeah.
And some were making quite a lot more than that. 140 guineas, and even though she was a nice, good, big cow, she never lived up to her. Instead of being sort of 8 or 9 gallons a day, she was a 5 gallon a day cow.
So she were bang average, but she were expensive.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So that was a bad start. What did you grow? What crops did you grow on the farm?
Well, just about everything. It was a proper mixed farm, like every other farm almost round us. We grew wheat, we grew barley for feeding, wheat probably to sell. We always grew roots, turnips and such. And we always grew about 8 to 10 acres of potatoes. which we used to store and then sell through the winter.
And you'd sell those to people who came here to buy them, or did you have a round, or did you sell them to a merchant?
Fish and chip shops and things like that.
Did you? Right.
But I mean, they're going back further, back to Worsbrough. My father used to grow potatoes there, so I was well used to growing potatoes, and he used to go around Bank End Estate, which was there when we were there. I would imagine that would have been part of Bank End Farm at one time.
So you'd made an exciting strong start at Cannon Hall Farm. Things were all going well, and then you had the hammer blow of losing your dad.
Yeah, it was a hammer blow indeed, yeah. I was still at school, and I came home from school, and I was met at the bus, because I usually walked home, by Eric Rowe, just to tell me that my father had passed away. And well, I sort of couldn't wait to get back and go, but he said, don't go up there, you can't do a thing about it, don't go up there. And so I didn't, and
He was a good man, Eric, wasn't he?
it was a desperately sad time, but it took sort of a whole week for it to hit me, and it wasn't until the funeral and actually burying him that it struck me, and it was a really bad time for me then.
It'd take a lot getting over, though, wouldn't it?
Well,
a long time.
Yeah, it did, but we didn't have a lot of time to do that.
I suppose at that point you'd know he wasn't coming back.
Yeah, exactly what I said. Yeah, I said he's gone now, and that was it.
So did you, like Will Rowe and all the rest of them, did they rally round?
Will Rowe arrived that night, actually. Well, it was evening. It was still light and such.
And were you living here by then, Dad?
Yes, we were living here, yeah. And he said, anything you want doing, just call me.
So just to put into context, Eric Rowe was Will's brother.
Yeah.
And he was someone who worked for you.
Eric worked for me, yeah.
And Will was a neighbouring farmer down at Jowett.
Yeah.
So without those two, you'd have been stuffed.
Oh, yeah. And Eric sort of stopped with me while I was 21 years old, and then he decided to go and work at Pipeworks, and he probably got a bit of a rise there.
So he stayed as your wingman until he felt that you'd come of age.
Yeah.
And then he went on to earn money doing a job, because he probably needed more money for his family.
Well, yeah, I mean, he had 5 children, so it wasn't, that easy.
So the Nicholsons and the Rowes are intrinsically linked, really, too.
Yeah,
without their help.
Yeah, that's right.
We wouldn't have been able to see through. I suppose that was the first crisis, wasn't it, really?
It was, yes. Luckily, I mean, Eric had worked here for the estate before.
So he knew the fields, he knew the land.
He knew everything about the place, really, yeah.
He knew what you could plough then, what not to do, really, which would save you making a lot of mistakes, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But I'm sure I made a few.
Well, we've all done that.
Yeah.
Did you miss him at 21 when he left? Did you miss him? Did you replace him? Did you manage without him? Could you afford to replace him?
Well, I did. Not immediately, I don't think, but I did get a couple of lads in after that. Not together, one at a time. Yeah.
But finding someone like him who had knowledge of the place, it would be difficult to replace, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I bet you got to remember back then, Rob. Like all those little loose boxes. It was all hand mucking out. It took a strong man to get all those empty.
Yeah.
And by the end of winter, they'd have been quite high, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they were halfway up the door.
I remember mucking them out myself.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
it could take its
It
toll.
wasn't a strong man, it was a strong boy for a start anyway.
You were glad to get to the bottom of them, weren't you?
Yeah, but when you got to the bottom of that,
There was another.
another one to do.
And we seemed to fill them all up with stock and that sort of thing. So,
So you're 21. Have you met my mum yet?
oh yes, I'd already met your mum when I was almost 19.
But you didn't marry her by 21.
No,
How old were you?
22, I think.
So you were courting strongly at 21. You knew she was the girl for you.
I did by then, yes.
And who lived at the farm at that point? Did any of your sisters live here still? Or were they all married off?
No, just my mother and me, that's all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So was me gran a tough nut for my mother to crack?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I remember. She was a strong woman, wasn't she?
She was, yeah. And
She thought a lot of you, didn't she?
yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody would have been
Just
the
perfect.
right one for her, really.
And was that a stress to you? Was it so difficult to manage, or did you find yourself having to, coax her along in that direction?
Were you a referee?
Well, it was just a gradual process. And she wasn't awful or nasty to her, but
No.
to just accept that somebody was the right person was
was a high
difficult for
bar.
her.
I think my mum told me when you actually got married, my gran said to my mum, "Well, you've got him now." Is that right?
I believe so. I didn't
But
hear
it
that.
wasn't necessarily said in a,
No.
it could just be, well, you've got him
You've
now.
got him now, yeah,
okay.
yeah. So, in other words, look after him.
Yeah. So, we're at 21, soon to be married,
Yeah,
right? Soon to be festooned with children.
absolutely.
So you've had to grow up fairly quickly, haven't you?
Yeah, I was growing up pretty quickly. All my life, I think, really.
Yeah.
I was a bit in front of my time
Right.
from that point of view. Yeah.
And how was the farm going at this time? What were the enterprises that you were running then?
Well, we were still virtually where we were when we started, with something of everything. I was selling all my sort of produce, my lambs at Barnsley Market, my cattle at Barnsley Market. That was the way that things were done then. And later on, we thought, well, there must be better ways than that. And we devised better ways than that, but that was something for the future, really.
But were you making a living at this point?
We were making a living to live, to eat and that sort of thing, but there was nothing extra to keep the place in good order. And that's quite important as you go on in life. You do need to be making that little bit extra so that you can do those repairs and renewals and things that you need to do to progress.
So every time you ran into something with a tractor, it didn't always get mended again quickly. And
Well, I waited for my kids to do that later on.
right, so you're going nicely. You're 21. You married mum at 22.
Yeah.
Then obviously Richard arrived pretty soon after that. You were just a week or two to the right side of being appropriate.
Yeah, my mother did say, "Have you been stealing a march?" I said, no.
And when Richard was born, where were you? Were you next to my mum, holding her hand?
No, I'm not one of those people that think that the fella should be there. I mean, what's the point for a nurse to have somebody fainting out and things like that?
Fainting out. Okay.
Yeah, so no, I wasn't there. I was waiting at my sister's for news, and I sort of kept ringing up, and then we found out that we'd got a boy. So there was quite a bit of celebration then, and that was to be repeated 3 times.
And when did you go and visit mum and Richard?
Well, the next day.
Oh no! Right.
So it was at hospital as well.
Well, there were visiting times.
Yeah.
You can't just bob in when you felt like it.
And I think that was the done thing then, wasn't
Definitely,
it?
yeah.
It wasn't like you were
Oh no,
uncaring.
I wasn't on my own. Nobody
No.
went to no. no.
You'd only need a bit of a sister there who didn't want anyone distracting.
Yeah, exactly. And they were a lot stricter in those days.
Yeah. And so was it, as I arrived and David arrived, did that add a degree of difficulty to what you were doing? It must have done, bringing 3 small children up and still trying to keep your jobs on. And
Well, it did, I suppose, because you had to be dealt with. But on the other hand, they were well worth it. Yeah.
Good.
So
I
Rob-
always felt that having kids were really a great thing to do, and never regretted.
So were you born in hospital, Rob?
Yeah, Robert was born in hospital,
Right.
and you were born at home, and I went up drilling some barley.
so you'd no excuse but to be something like about, did you, by then?
Well, you got the midwife, and your gran from Halifax were there as well.
All right.
So I knew she were in good hands,
Yeah.
and
What if there were a leg back or something though?
well,
Leave it to the midwife.
I
Rob.
think Nurse Bo, they called her. I think
she?
Nurse Bo. I think she was the expert in that line. Yeah, I wasn't queuing up to do
And was
that.
it a good field of barley you drilled?
Well, it's a car park now.
Oh, is it? That's where you were. right.
Yeah. So that just shows how things have
Moved on,
changed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so you've got 3 under 4.
Yeah.
You've got a farm that's taking a bit of running. You've got multiple enterprises.
Yeah.
Far more than Jeremy Clarkson's got on his farm at the moment.
Yeah.
Right, so you've got your hands full.
Yeah.
You've got the help of mum when she's not looking after us. Did you have anyone else to help you at that point?
Well, Will Rowe was an ever-present. I mean, he had a combine, and Eric Ellis had a combine, so we weren't sort of short of that. But the first year, it was a binder, and because we made it in the old-fashioned way.
So the first year that you were married, I've heard mum talk about this.
Not married, but
No, the first year you were married.
oh yes,
Right?
yeah. That
I've heard mum talk about the harvest was so late.
2nd of October, we'd arranged it so that all the harvest would be over, and we hadn't even started. And the fields of barley were black, and when the combine went in, the clouds of dust were tremendous. It was,
So you were lucky to get a window of weather to get it harvested at that point,
we
weren't you?
were, and I got flu as well.
So you got flu, retired to bed, and my mother were left on binder with Eric Ellis getting harvesting.
Well, Ted came over as well.
Uncle Ted, mum's brother.
Yeah.
It's a wonder she didn't go back with him. Well,
So
The job had to be done, didn't it?
yeah, it did. Yeah, and I think it was all that dust that did me in, really.
Was it?
Yeah, but everybody else managed to
right.
last it out. Yeah.
On the previous episode, we've talked about opening the farm to the public to make ends meet because we were in a financial crisis. How far into that crisis were we at this point, Dad?
Well, it was just a struggle. We were still living within our means, but nothing extra. The bank manager was getting a little bit impatient as well at that
Was he?
stage. Yeah,
How often did you meet the bank manager?
too often.
No, but how often?
You weren't firm friends then.
No, well, some I got on pretty well with, some I didn't really. But,
Right. Was it an annual thing? Was it more often than
usually
that?
had an annual visit. Yeah.
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 Did they come to the farm then?
No, I went to them, unfortunately. Yeah.
Did it feel like going back to school?
Something like that. Yeah. It was a difficult time, but well, we managed, and we were determined as well. We were determined to see it through. So at that point, there was no sort of thinking, well, we're not going to really make it, but doubts were there a bit.
So things like, we didn't go on many holidays. We always had a good table, as my grandma used to say. Right, we always ate well, but,
Yeah.
but there wasn't money for for reinvestment in the farm in the way of equipment.
No.
There wasn't money for fancy holidays or or fancy cars.
No.
So we were just bubbling along the surface, but not really prospering.
We went to the seaside for 2 or 3 days, didn't we?
Yeah, well, you went twice actually.
Yeah.
You went once with me and once with your mum.
Yeah.
And
Mum and Rosemary.
Rosemary went along, and you probably had a really good time in the rock pools and whatever.
And that's because the farm couldn't be left on its own.
Yeah,
One of
that's
you
right.
had to stay. So a
Yeah.
family holiday away was
Yeah.
difficult to achieve. I remember once we went to Torquay.
Yeah.
You must have left someone in charge
Well,
then.
I can't remember who was in charge actually. I think Brian were working.
Brian,
for us.
maybe with the help of Nigel.
Something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, and they had a burst. They rang up to say that a pipe had burst.
Did they?
Yeah.
And where was it?
It was the old one from the pond.
Oh, right.
So it was the council pipe.
Yeah, yeah, but it was in our yard. That was the trouble.
Right.
Anyway, they managed to get over, and we finished our holiday.
We have a trip or two away. We have a holiday or two sporadically.
Yeah.
Things are ticking along. We're all happy.
Yeah.
We're all living a lovely life. We've got the great outdoors, and things are going well in lots of ways. But there's always that rumbling lack of money that you know is a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
That we've tried any number of ways to solve, and we were all involved in this. You know, we were all in it together,
Yeah.
making plans. What if we do this? What if we do that? But we never quite cracked it until we opened the farm to the public.
No, that was the deciding break that we needed.
How
really.
long had that been in your mind, Dad?
Well,
That trip to Devon?
yeah, because we went to an open farm there, and there were only 3 or 4 in the country at that time. Pennywell Farm, and it's still there, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a long time ago then,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. They're one of the longest acting open farms in a good area from a tourist point of view, but probably not open in winter.
I suppose you look at Pennywell, it's in the tourist attraction in the right area.
Yeah.
And then you've got us in Barnsley. It's a different thing, but we did have people, you know, on our doorstep going to the park and the gardens.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so we kind of had a good location.
Yeah, it was. It's an excellent place because there's Wakefield, there's Huddersfield, there's Sheffield, there's Leeds, all within striking distance of us, and obviously Barnsley and Doncaster, loads of different towns.
Dad, that was a real pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cannon Hall Farm podcast.
We'll be back next time to talk about another important moment from the history of Cannon Hall Farm.
And don't forget, follow us on Facebook and you'll get daily videos of everything that's happening on our family farm.
And also, follow us on your podcast provider and leave us a rating.
Go on, give us 5 stars if you possibly can. We'll be back next time, but until then, I've been Farmer Rob.
I've been Farmer Dave.
And we'd like to say a big goodbye.
See ya. Bye-bye.